Good afternoon. My name is Becky, one of the Chemishield Support Squad team members, and you are very welcome to the first instalment of our mini webinar series, Making Your Lab Safe with Chemishield. During this webinar, we will explore a number of key areas, such as the typical lab waste flow life cycle, hazards associated with chemical waste disposal, tracking and labelling your chemical waste, and of course, how Chemishield is going to make your lab a safer environment. We hope you find this mini webinar informative, interesting and engaging. Okay, so let's get started. Labs are busy places and management are responsible for ensuring that personnel are protected from hazards in a lab. You know there is a good reason why people wear lab coats and glasses, and that's not just to look smart, but in fact to protect you from splashes, spillages and such. Similarly, you'll see boxes upon boxes of nitrile gloves, as well as staff wearing safety shoes. The intent of this personal protective equipment is management's way of protecting you from your surroundings. Labs will also have eye wash and shower stations in case disaster strikes. Going a step further, diphoterine, an emergency rinsing solution for splashes of chemical products, may also be in use. Its rapid use in case of contact between the skin or eye and a chemical product is intended to quickly eliminate the residual chemical product on the skin or in the eye. This makes it possible to limit the extent of the burns and lesions caused. It really is super stuff, and we can't say enough good things about it. I'll include a link to this in the description. But why do people get splashed with chemicals that would necessitate the use of such PPE? There is a long list of reasons, such as not labelling your glassware, poor housekeeping, becoming distracted, not understanding chemical compatibility, not taking time to read your MSDS sheets, and of course, laziness. The list is endless. Just like I said a moment ago, labs are busy places, and when you combine the above factors, it can lead to disastrous consequences. Let's consider the disposal of chemical waste. Typically, people will dispose of their waste in the following manner. You generate waste during the day. At the end of the day, you clean down your bench. You go and locate a waste container. You know there's a waste manual somewhere, but you decide to use your own judgment and select a container that is half full. You're not quite sure what's in it. There's some illegible marking on the bottle, but you decide to use it anyway because you can't find an empty container. You pour your waste in and now realise you're late leaving work. So instead of logging your waste, you decide that the container is full and nothing happened when you poured your waste in and everything is fine. So you leave the waste container on the bench instead of putting it back into the flammable storage cabinet. However, what you didn't realise is the new lab intern poured dilute nitric acid into that waste container a few hours previously and only half completed the label because everyone was leaving the lab for lunch. And they didn't realise you were going to dispose of your 80-20 acetone nitrile water mobile phase into that container later in the day. Tick, tock, and kaboom! I understand this is a doomsday type scenario, but there are a number of contributing factors that led to this accident. 1. The intern was careless and became distracted when asked to go to lunch because they simply wanted to fit in with their new colleagues. 2. The intern didn't consult their waste manual as they were never told about it, and they were fearful of putting their dilute nitric acid down the sink in case they destroyed any pipework. After all, this was their new job and they wanted to make a solid impression, so they decided an empty container would be best for such. Instead of asking their colleagues what to do with the waste, because they just studied a chemistry degree and didn't want to feel silly asking such a question, they took matters into their own hands. 3. Instead of taking the time to put the container back into the flammable storage cabinet, you left the container on the bench. Why? Laziness, I guess. 4. Chemical compatibility is what caused the actual explosion, and the contributing factors such as poor housekeeping, distractions, and laziness cause 2 or more incompatible chemicals to be put into the same container. The next day, there is chaos in the lab. Equipment is being destroyed, the lab is basically a mess, and the investigation ensues. Management locate the waste logbook and discover that it has been destroyed. A year's worth of entries lost. Also, as the label was already illegible, it has now been completely destroyed, so trying to figure out what was in the container is going to take some serious detective work. Because the lab is now under investigation, all of the samples arriving from production are building up and up. Consequently, other labs within the company network are also undergoing investigation to discover what practices are being used to dispose of chemical waste. All of the labs say it's not their problem because the waste collection company is the responsible party here. But are they? Ask yourself this question: who is responsible for my safety? The answer is easy, right? Grab a mirror and take a look. So, how is Chemishield going to make your lab safer? Imagine a lab where all waste containers are fully labelled, where you don't have to use logbooks to track your waste disposals, where you never have to consult an Excel spreadsheet, where you have full confidence in knowing what container your waste should go into, where you don't have to try and find a suitable container, where you don't have to worry about your colleagues' disposable habits. You see where I'm going here with all of this. Chemishield is a mobile software platform built by a former lab analyst for lab analysts. We recognise that there is a significant gap in many labs regarding waste disposal, with countless near misses going unrecorded. But should you really wait for a near miss or even an accident to fill this gap? Naturally, I'm going to say no. And even though the intent of this webinar is geared towards how Chemishield is fantastic and is going to revolutionise the waste disposal process for your labs, blah, 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 we feel it is extremely important to bring this topic of lab safety to the fore and openly discuss the dangers that exist in labs. Even if this webinar provokes you into looking at your waste disposal practices, then we've succeeded in bringing this into light, and perhaps it may mean that there will be one less diphoterine bottle used. Right, let's look at how Chemishield can be used in the labs. Firstly, it can reside on a desktop, tablet, phone, where all users will have unique login credentials and management can decide on the access privileges they give their staff. I won't go into all the benefits and features of Chemishield in this instance. After all, this is a webinar series and we want to keep you intrigued and coming back for more. Chemishield can communicate with any printer that you have in the lab. All you have to do is stock up on some A5 labels. You can check out avery.com. Cheap plug, no affiliation whatsoever. I'll also include the link to this in the description. Okay, so I'm in a demo lab here where the lab manager has created 3 waste streams: chlorinated, non-chlorinated and sink. I'm going to dispose of 150 ml of dilute nitric acid, 2 litres of 80-20 acetone nitrile water mobile phase and 100 ml of chloroform. I'm going to add these to my favourites as I'll be disposing of these chemicals again soon, and as I'm in the main lab, I'm going to select that as my waste location. Voila! We are being told to get 2 new bottles, one for our mobile phase and one for chloroform, and I can put my acid down the sink. Why is this the case? Remember, all we are doing here is automating your waste streams and tagging them with the substances and mixtures that belong to each waste stream. We have some 5-litre bottles in stock, so I'm going to grab 2 of them and commence the disposal process for my mobile phase. The interim label is printed out and attached to the bottle with the waste added. I do the same for the next bottle and scan the QR code at the sink, which was put there by my lab manager. Nice and easy, right? The next day I log back into Chemishield and wish to dispose of the exact same chemicals as yesterday. As you can see, I'm being told where to put my waste. However, I'm going to pick up and scan the wrong bottle to see what would happen. There you have it. The QR code is not recognised as being associated with the bottle. This is what would happen if I wasn't switched on, was in a rush, or if I had multiple waste bottles on a bench in front of me. So I'm going to scan the correct bottle this time and complete the disposal process entirely. If I scan a bottle at any given time, I can see the relevant safety information as well as the contents of the bottle. I can decide to deactivate the bottle, which will indicate that it is ready to be taken from the lab. What did Chemishield do for me here? It identified where my waste should go. All of the major actions performed, such as chemical, quantities, dates and time, were tracked and can be viewed by the lab manager too. It stopped me from putting my waste in the wrong bottle. It prevented me from having to consult spreadsheets, find a suitable bottle and ask my colleagues questions. And it's quicker than the current waste disposal process and gave me confidence in my actions. So if we wear lab coats, safety glasses and shoes, gloves, purchase diphoterine, designate personnel as safety champions, run vigorous safety training courses, 5S labs, etc., then why would we not want to use Chemishield? Many thanks for your attention during this mini webinar. I hope you found it a benefit. For more information, you can check us out at chemishield.com. I look forward to answering all your questions. Our next webinar will be aptly titled, How to Make the Outside of Your Lab Safe Using Chemishield.